Hi, everybody. I'm Chick Hearn on vacation with the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, we all know that Pat Riley has coached the Lakers to 4 world championships. Today, let's find out more about Pat Riley, the man. And on our Laker vacation today, what a thrill for me to join an old pal, an old buddy, and perhaps the greatest coach that the NBA has today, and maybe as good a coach as the NBA has ever had. What you've accomplished is unbelievable in 7 years. You've won the title 4 times. 2 other times you went to the final. When you asked me, should I leave the booth? Should I take a chance as assistant coach? I said, let me think about it. And one of the reasons I suggested that you did was your dad. Let's talk about your family, your dad, your mom, your brothers. Tell us about it.
Well, it's sports family. My dad was a baseball manager for and player for years in the minor leagues. Coach Tommy Lasorda back in Schenectady, New York in 48 and 49. Lasorda will always tell you funny stories about my father. I don't know if they're true or not, but I can remember my mother in the 1947, 48 Woody, one of those old wood station wagons, you know, toting around 6 children, you know, following Dad and his little stops along the way. And my dad was always a very disciplined man. I think he was a man of tremendous dignity and respect. Never pushed any of his sons or daughters into any one thing, but once you did go, and once he just gave you a nod, that was enough. You know, he was a very strong man, and only now as a coach can I appreciate all the discipline that I thought at that time was not deserved. That really helped me.
Another brother, Lee, was a player with the New York Giants of the NFL. Tell you more about Pat and his football experiences in a moment, but I wanted to get back to 1970 when you married your lovely Chris. Doesn't seem possible. You've been married 18 years, does it? But your dad, he drove out from Schenectady to San Diego for the wedding. And when he was climbing back in his car to leave, you didn't know it then, but it'd be the last time you ever saw him alive. Can you remember what he said?
Well, we had spent most of the day talking about basketball in my career, and I was right at the point where I was on an expansion team. I was going up to Portland, and I was about $10,000 in debt. I had a plastic plant, a Corvette, and a king-size bed, and I was getting married too. You know, so I had a lot of problems at that time. And we were talking about, and I had a fear that my career was over with. I really did, and that I was going to be cut by Portland. And we had spent most of the day talking about that situation. And then after the reception, you know, we were downstairs, and he got in Frank and Dorothy's, Chris's parents' car, and they were taking him and Mom back out to the house. And as he was driving away, he just sort of stuck his head out the window. He had a few
Couple of
drinks.
beers.
Yeah, had a couple of beers. He was happy for his son getting married, and I'll never forget his head coming out and his arm coming out the window, and he just sort of said to me, he says, "Hey, Pat, just remember what I've always taught you, is that every now and then, you know, you've got to plant your feet, stand firm, and make a point." And he used to talk to Lee and Lenny and Dennis and myself like that when we were young kids. And I just, you know, those were the last words really I ever heard my father say to me, because he passed away shortly thereafter when I was up at Portland. So it was, they have definitely stayed in the back of my mind. And it was this ring in 1985 when we had our backs against the wall against Boston in Game 2, which I thought was the most significant game that this team in 9 years has ever had to play, when we got beat on Memorial Day. And we had to win Game 2. I don't think if we win Game 2, we probably don't do anything else other than get swept. But that was the day that I told the team about that experience I had with my father. It was our time to plant, stand, and make a point, and they did. And that's our greatest moment, and it's sort of symbolic of my father.
You went to Linton High School in Schenectady, all-star in football and basketball and all sports, anything you wanted to do. Your coach there helped you a lot. Then you went on to Ad Rupp at Kentucky. What an experience. to be a member of Rupp's Runts, as you were famously called, and got to the finals of the NCAA.
One of the most exciting teams, I think, ever in college basketball. 5 guys, the tallest guy was really 6'4", and played center. We were quick, we would run, we were a team, had great shooting, won 23 or 24 games in a row, and ended up getting beat in the finals. But Walt Prisbo, my high school coach, taught us a lot about life. Adolph Rupp taught me really about basketball and about the discipline of basketball. I don't think without those 2 men in my basketball life early that I would have been able to get to where I am today. And again, you can only appreciate it later on.
Pat, I've referred to Chris and to James. How'd you meet Chris, first of all?
I met her on the beach in San Diego back in 1967, 68. After I had monitored her closely for about 3-4 months. Finally had the courage to go up and say to her, as she was walking away from the wall in Mission Beach to the ocean. Now, Chris looked like she was an Hawaiian then. I mean, she had spent the whole summer in the sun. She was tan. She had this polka dot avocado bathing suit on. I mean, you know.
You remember that?
Oh, I remember her legs. And I walked up to her with some courage, and I said to her, "Excuse me," and she said, "Yes. Are you in the book?" And she looked at me like, "What book?" "The phone book." And she kept walking. She kept walking to the beach. You know, I was like crushed, you know.
But what happened?
Well, I took her out for a milkshake. What I did is I was officiating some summer league games down at the beach, and I invited her to one of those, and then after that we went and got a milkshake up in La Jolla Shores, and one thing led to another. I had to beat off some baseball players and football players, and once I got rid of all those guys, it was home free.
And you and Chris have adopted a wonderful little boy named James. He's 3.5 years old now. You got him when he was 3 days old, and he has become such a great part of your life, both of you.
Well, we didn't know what we were missing, really. You know, we were both career people. On the fast track, you know, for the first 15 years of our marriage. And then all of a sudden, we would come home at night after going to whatever, a number of things. We've been to games, parties, shows, vacations, and we had experienced all of it, but there was something missing. There really was. And
has it changed your life?
Yes, it has, Chick. He is, you know, the only thing now left, I think, for us is the family. It really is, James, and, you know, we definitely want to expand the family. We're making plans to do that. But when he came into our life, it just put everything into a great perspective. It crystallized why I was working, why we were living, you know, what we were earning and enjoying our life. And to have him be a part of it has just made it full. I don't know how else to explain it, but he has been the glue that's, I think, Stephen, helped me, you know, concentrate in my profession, because I don't think you're successful in anything in life unless your family is right there with you. As you know, Marge is what I call a lifer, who's right there with you, has been there with you all these years. Chris has been right there with me, and now James Patrick is going to be right there, and I think that's why we play, that's why we coach, that's why we broadcast for them.
I remember, Pat, when the opening became available for you to come into the broadcast booth or try out for the job. I couldn't call you at your office because your office was the beach. You were sitting down there every day watching these experts do their crossword puzzles. And it made me think you had a lot of time in your hands at that then. But now, with all of your success, I wonder if you have any time to spare.
You know, I think that that happens. You know, there's a point of, I think, in everybody's life where they're responsible but irresponsible. I thought at that time was a great growth period for me, because I was in between. Was I going to stay in basketball, or was I going to move on into another profession? But I think it's interesting for especially this Laker team. Since '79, since this new product came on the line by the name of Irvin Magic Johnson, I think all of us have been busier because of winning. And that's what I was talking about before, is that I think once you take care of that priority of yours in your business, and mine is to do everything that I can do to help this team win, and just keep directing that energy for that team. All those things that you don't even expect in your life that are ever going to happen to you just sort of come, and it makes you busy and thinking. You start creating other ideas and other opportunities, and I think that's what the Lakers have done for me and for everybody involved with them, is that it has created more opportunities, but we have to be careful, and that is that we have to remember why those opportunities are coming, and get back on the wavelength, and make sure that we take care of business, and that is to win. So
Earlier, you alluded to the fact that you thought the loss of Game 2 in the '85 series against Boston had a big motivational factor for this club for the years to come.
Yes.
So sometimes if you look hard enough, you can find a benefit from something that seemed very distressing at the moment. And I was driving over here for this interview today to your lovely home, and I was thinking maybe the loss in 1986 to Houston gave the team another way to look, more of a pointed direction, including the coach.
I think each year that I've been with the Lakers in a coaching capacity has taught me something about what had to be done the next year. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind now that we grow more from adversity than we do from success.
Absolutely.
I mean, you stay the same when you're successful. You really have to watch out for being successful as a team or being successful as an individual, because you just sort of stay the same and you don't develop any other reasons above and beyond the natural motivation of wanting to be successful, and everybody wants that. So when you're successful, you got to find a way to go above and beyond every year. In 1979-80, we were a championship team. We had won a championship, but we weren't a championship team. We just sort of, it was what I call the year of the innocent climb. We got Magic and Kareem, and then all of a sudden we won a championship with a Magic playing center. And the next year we fragmented against Houston in the mini-series, and the next year we had our first growth with McAdoo in my first year as a coach, and the next year we got injured, and there was a natural phenomenon that you can't control with injuries, and the next year we choked. And the next year we had our greatest moment, and then the next year in '86, when Sampson hit this miracle shot, it wasn't a miracle because it went in, it was a miracle because it taught me another lesson. It taught us all another lesson, that complacency is the most insidious disease in the world, and it sits up on our shoulders. And I think the statement that came out of '86, Chick, was this, is that everybody said the Lakers were finished. That once Houston beat us, it was the new kid on the block, the Twin Towers, and we were finished. And when we came back in '87, they came back with another reason, and that was to keep their self-respect and their dignity. And that's all a professional athlete really has.
Everything that you've said so very, very well could be summed up in maybe one word that you are so adept at: motivation. Most people think that Pat goes to camp and the guys get around him and he said, here's the basketball guys, and one guy in the back row hollers, don't go so fast, coach. Anyway, Pat sends these people a letter, or more maybe, a month or so before camp, don't you? Getting them ready mentally, to get themselves physically ready for the upcoming challenge, and it is a challenge.
This one. I've always sent 2 or 3 letters to players during all my off seasons as a coach, and just sort of touching base, friendly, then semi-business, and then business. This year I have not sent them 1 letter because it was such a grueling 2 years, and they've heard this voice and this philosophy. I just wanted them not to even think about me or expecting some letter. So I was just drafting one this morning with Randy Funn, and it sort of went like this: Dear player, I'm not going to write you a long historical philosophical BS letter. Just a few points. Point number 1, I'm not going to do this. Point number 2, the 1988-89 theme song is that we've only just begun. Point number 3, the 1988-89 Reason to Win theme song will be, this is dedicated to the one we love, for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar by the Shirelles. Point number 4, I missed you. Point number 5, I'll see you in Hawaii. 3 Pete Riles. That's the letter that they're going to get from me. So I want to try to keep it a little bit lighter this year.
Your captain, give me a comment on Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as you're about to take him into his final year of his illustrious career.
Well, it's going to be a sad one.
Oh.
I mean, it really is. I mean, what I do hope that people will understand is that let's not judge him, okay? Let's not criticize him anymore. Say, well, he's only a shell of what he used to be, which is, academic, because he probably is. But let's remember him for a man who played 20 years, and his greatness is in his heart. His greatness is in his durability, and that when he leaves this game, that all we're going to remember are the good things about Kareem. And I do hope that this season everybody understands that when he's having one of his tough nights, Chick, that we say, hey, boy, you better get a load of this, because a year from now we're all going to say, where is he? I wish I could see him again, and he's going to be gone, be over in Hawaii living there. But just simply and truly the greatest players ever played.
You talked a minute ago about traveling. The traveling that you've done here in this vacation period has been unbelievable. You've been in every country in the world, I think, and you just came back from that Amnesty International group, and what a job they're doing.
Well, the first trip was vacation, Chick.
Where'd you go?
We went the first trip right after the season. I mean, I couldn't get out of town quick enough. We went to Europe, and we went to the Formula One Grand Prix. I never had an opportunity to watch that. I've always seen it on television. It was a great experience. We're in a place called Castellet, France, and then we were in Nice for a while. Then we headed to Italy and spent 8 unbelievable days at a resort in Porto Ercole, in which I gained 19 pounds that I lost during the playoffs.
I don't believe that.
With pasta. I thought I probably did, but that's all we did was sleep and eat and drink and read and just rest, because it was a very grueling year. But the last trip we went back on was something that I'm really proud to be part of, because Amnesty International and the concert tour Human Rights Now is a movement to raise the consciousness of everybody in the world about a lot of people in countries who don't have the right to express themselves freely, prisoners of conscience. And in 1948, there was a Declaration of Human Rights that was signed by everybody, every country in this world, that very few of them ever really keep up with it. They don't live up to it, and we see it all over the world. We read about it in the press, and the Idi Amins, and you can go on and on with these people who just never paid attention to it. And that's what this concert tour is about, and to be part of it, and to watch Bruce Springsteen and Sting and Peter Gabriel and Tracy Chapman and these artists who are giving up 6 weeks of their lives and millions of dollars in concert tours to show that they do care and they want to bring this to the people was very rewarding for me.
Did you travel with people of that stature?
Yes, I did. We met in London, and we traveled with them to Paris and to Milan, and I found out that it's a grueling life. We always complain about, our players complain about travel.
Yeah?
Yeah, these tours that, the Bruce Springsteen band especially, I mean, they're like gypsies, and you talk about grueling hours and time, and every night they're in a different city. So I learned a little bit about their work ethic and their commitment, and especially these particular people who really do care and give up their time for this cause. So it was a rewarding trip for us. It really was.
When they travel like that, are they in the finest hotels, the large cities?
Not here. Not here. They were just part of the group. But it was something that opened up my eyes to professionals in another industry, showing just how much they care. And usually music is the first way that we can relay messages to people out there to be aware of what Amnesty International is about. And what I would like to do, and I hope I can do it this year through the NBA, is make people in the NBA aware that maybe in every city, one game, that we can have an Amnesty International Human Rights Now, just an awareness night, to make people aware of just the plight of a lot of the people in this world.
Did the people over there appreciate it?
Yes, they did. I think they were hungering for it. And when Bruce Springsteen came on stage in Paris, and they raised the lights, and he was singing Born in the USA, I about cried. I'm telling you. And these people were fanatic. They don't get a chance to see this.
No.
They're going to go to a lot of countries where human rights are a real question. And those people are hungering for this kind of input. And so I think it's going to be a very successful tour.
You talked about the millions that they make when they work in America. Pat Riley said at the top of this show that he was standing outside with very little money, a car, a lamp, maybe a king-size bed, $10,000 in debt, and now you are nearing $1 million a year, perhaps more. Is it hard to make the adjustment?
For me, no.
I'll bet there's a lot of changes, though.
Oh, there are.
Changes.
They're subtle, Chick. You know, I've always been a reserve, and I've always been put in a certain category, and I've always said yes to anything anybody offered me because I was afraid I wasn't going to get a job. So I pretty much took whatever came, and the last 4 or 5 years, a lot of things have changed in my life in that department because of the success of the team.
Right.
And I really do believe this is a philosophy that if you do more than you're supposed to do, you always get back more for what you do, or you should.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if the team wins and we're successful, and we just, you know, proceed on that level only, that all those things that we desire in life or want in life, those rewards will follow us wherever we go. Now, I believe that, and it's happened for me, so I'm just going to keep pushing towards that goal and that mission to make the Lakers successful, to make them winners, not because of what I want to get out of it, but because that's the only thing that's there for me.
Last year, you made the promise, and it came true. Pretty firm statement, too, that you made. When you made it, I didn't think much about it, but as the weeks and the months, and particularly after February got going, and the possibility was there, then you got to think this guy knew something. What are you saying about this year? Is it possible to win 3 in a row in 1988-89?
The reason I made that statement last year is that it goes back to the motivation, is that
Right.
each year you got to keep moving above and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way a great team can move from one level to the next is to take a risk. Take some risk. Up the ante and play for higher stakes. This year, it's about arriving. You spend years and years of your life striving to get to a certain level. You strive and you strive and you strive, and your whole life is climbing mountains and getting there, and then finally when you get there, you sort of, you know, can say to yourself, well, I'm not going to work any harder, or I've arrived. I think the Lakers have arrived at a point in their team's career whereby the rest of it should be easy, and easier because of their experience and their battle wounds and all of these championships and all of these losses. They've arrived at a point where now I think it's just beginning for them. I think everybody thinks it's over with for us, and we've used our very last drop, and it went down to 6 seconds to go in Game 7 last year, and it still wasn't decided. 3-7 game series. I know all of the people out there are saying the Lakers, they just shot their last shot. I think it's just beginning, and I want our players to understand that when you've worked that hard to arrive at this point, you got 4 or 5 good years left in your career. Man, you got to take advantage of it. So that's the theme. Thank you, Chick.
Thank you so much, and the best of luck.
Well, it's better to be good than lucky.
And if you're both,
hey, then you're on top.
it's unbeatable.